while the team is coming up on stage, for those of you who maybe have not met me, my name is Ben, and I am the youth director here at the church. And every year, except for 2 years because of COVID, the high schoolers go on a deputation trip. And typically we have a rotation where we do every 3 years something different, and then we cycle that through. So usually it is an international trip, a national trip, and a local trip, and then we restart and do international, national, local. So our last trip prior to COVID was our international trip, where we went to Roatan in 2019, and the plan was then to do a local trip. So local, national, international, and that's kind of our cycle. And so we had scheduled a trip for here in Washington to Yakama. And then COVID came, and we had to scrap everything, as a lot of us did. And so when it came time for us to go, hey, we can do this again, how exciting, we said, let's just pick up where we left off. But it turns out we'd lost a lot of momentum. And so we said, what can we do to kind of recharge and get excited again about the opportunity to go and be a blessing? And so I was talking with Steve Critchlow over the phone, and he came up with an idea. It's his idea. I just kind of tweaked it and called it a progressive mission trip, where instead of going to one place for 5, 6, 7, 8 days, we're going to go all around the state, from place to place, partnering in different locations with different organizations and churches, and so that's what we did. So it ended up being a lot more logistics, which is not my strength. But these guys made it work, and our hosts, which you're going to hear about, some of the organizations and partnerships that we had, were just phenomenal in helping us succeed. And so this is the team. There were 13 students and 5 adults. We've got a few people who are missing just because of vacations. It's summertime. I'm glad that none of you have lives outside of church, so thank you for being here. Thank you for getting my humor. But we're excited to be able to share this morning about what our experience was. So to start off with, I'm just going to ask questions, and they are going to share with you, with us, the answers to the questions that I ask. All right? Thank you. Thank you, Josh. So I'm just going to sit here because that's more comfortable. And don't forget to share your name. But can somebody share with us, what did we do on the trip? Okay, we're going to go down there, and then it'll come back over here.
Hello, my name is Sarah, and on Monday we went from Ross Point Camp to Spokane, where we served at Cup of Cool Water, a teen homeless shelter, and there we did outreach with the people there.
Hi, my name is Jackie, and the next day we went to City Gate, where we, which
Issaquah Christian Church, so they wouldn't have to pay a fine. Then the group older than 16 went to Gateway Medical Alliance and repackaged medical supplies.
Anybody else want to add anything? Anything else that we did? I mean, yeah. So as you heard from Jackie and Sarah, we moved around a lot. Went to a lot of different places. And what I heard, and just to kind of put it in our minds, we partnered with, let's see, Engage Church, which hosted us in Spokane, Cup of Cool Water, the teen shelter, City Gate, the adult shelter, Moses Lake Presbyterian Church that hosted us in Moses Lake. And somebody needs to unpack maybe more about just the difficulty that was the RV. But then Issaquah Christian Church, then Kent Hope, which is an organization of the Union Gospel Mission, and then Gateway Medical Alliance. So was that like 7 organizations or partnerships that we had? Awesome. So in the midst of doing all of that, what do you think, what are some of the things that maybe you learned through the process, through the trips, through the organizations? What did you learn?
Hello, I'm Michael Barnes, and I would say that one of the days we most learned stuff was on Thursday, because in the morning we had a presentation that was done by one of Ben's friends on the homelessness population in Seattle and surrounding areas, and they came to talk prepare us for the Kent Hope Day, and they were talking about how one of the best ways to get people off the streets and stay off the streets is by making connections with them that they can rely on if they ever need stuff. So we were told to, when we go to this barbecue that we were setting up, just focus on trying to make connections that are true and genuine. Some statistics that he gave us were Seattle was the 18th largest city in the U.S., but it was the 3rd largest homelessness, but the 1st in density. So it was a pretty bad problem. There was 40,000 people estimated to be homeless, but just not having a secure home to be in, so they were jumping house to house, sleeping in cars and stuff, while 12,000 were living on the streets with absolutely nowhere to sleep.
Hey, so my name is DJ Dye, and following the presentation and training that we were given on Thursday morning, we went to Kent Hope, which is a emergency women's children shelter, where we hosted a barbecue and hung out with the kids, tried to build relationships. And one of the most impactful things that we learned there was the unrestrained godly love that all those children have. They're not jaded by society yet. They have no implications as to what the world is like. Even though they're in one of the less fortunate stances, they were so ready to just give and receive so much love. The moment we walked in, all they wanted to do was hang, play. They started a game of tag. A lot of people were giving piggyback rides. It was just an extremely emotional and wonderful event. So it was super fun.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. Where Kent Hope is situated, right on, if you've been to Kent, Covington area, it's right on the hill down into downtown Kent, and it's just a converted old house that they've turned into a shelter, and so it's a tiny little driveway, and I'd been there once before when I used to live over on that side of the state, but it'd been a while, and so I dropped the kids off, and then there's not parking there, so I had to go around, and so I just leave the kids, essentially, to say, hey, go into the back and get started. I'll be honest, I was probably the most nervous for that event because we were the ones who were really running everything. They were just providing the space, and now I'm leaving them to go park the vehicle and whatnot. And when I came back, I mean, these guys were just going crazy, playing tag. Just it was obvious that there was something special that was happening. It was really awesome to see. Anything else maybe learned? Anyone else want to share? All right. So with what we did and what we learned, some things just stood out, whether because of how impactful they were or maybe because of how maybe humorous they were. But what are some of the things that stood out to you on this trip?
Hi, my name is Nathan Grover. On Monday, we went to Cup of Cool Water, the teen homeless shelter, and I was really surprised when we went in there by just like, it was obvious that the people who work there and the people who donate had just put so much into that place. They had like this little like gym area, they had cots, there was a little cafe. They offered things like guitar lessons and art lessons, and it was really cool to see how much people had just given and their time and their money so this place could thrive. The two main workers there that we interacted with and did outreach with were, it was really cool to see it. They connected with the youth in a way that we couldn't, but they just knew how to respond to the youth. They knew how to engage and connect, so that was really cool.
Hi, I'm Brennan Kinnicker, and something that stood out to me while on the trip was throughout the whole week, we met lots of different people, and some of them looked a little bit scary, but if you got to know them, they're actually quite nice and easy to be around. But from circumstances in their lives, they just looked a little different and scary, but they're actually great people, and that was really nice to see.
Kind of goes back to, give it to Jillian. Kind of goes back to what Michael was saying about the need for connection, right? Just being treated as a fellow human and having a relationship matters. So, yeah, great job.
My name's Jillian McBride, and I think one thing that kind of stood out to me was that while we were serving all of these people, we started to make connections to some of them. I actually, at the Women's and Children's Shelter, was one of the only people who was able to talk to one of the adults. And it was honestly kind of cool to just interact with her like that, and just getting that sense of humanity and just learning a little bit about herself. And also, I also served coffee at the homeless shelter in Spokane, and it was just amazing for me to see how polite everybody was who just wanted to get a cup of coffee and just some food. And it was honestly really heartwarming to experience.
Yeah, and then when we were serving the food, it was so Jillian and Raymond and Lizzie, right? And then Courtney and Ellie and I, and just the opportunity to see all these people. Everybody else had gone back upstairs to do, or downstairs to do some cleaning, and just a few of us got to actually serve food for the adults. And just the opportunity to say, hi, how are you today? And Courtney, who's not here, she's gone on a trip, just did a great job. I just heard her all the time, just giving a smile, saying hi, just asking, and just they appreciated that so much. There was one lady who came through the line and just said, she wasn't referring to us specifically, but was referring to the organization Citygate. She said, if it wasn't for you, I would be dead. So just to hear that and to have the kids be able to hear that was really impactful, and it definitely stood out. So, anyone else?
One of the most funny things that happened on the trip was at Kentope, one of the little kids there said the Pledge of Allegiance as a prayer. It was so cute and so funny.
I was very surprised. So Sherry started us last week in this series, Blessed to be a Blessing. You see the box there next to Jackie that she used last week. Jackie, would you actually lift that lid for me? Blessed to be a blessing. Great job. So this for August, we're talking about what does it look like? What does it mean for us to both be blessed, because God has blessings that he wants to pour out upon us, but not just so that we can hold on to them, so that we can hoard them. My old boss, who these guys all met, I refer to him as my church mom, used to say that God's blessing is not a cul-de-sac, it's a through street. We don't want to just collect it for us. But it's important, though, that we receive blessing, because you can't give what you don't have. And so my question for you guys is, how do you feel like through the process, everything from the beginning of meetings and overnighters and retreats to the actual experience, do you feel like you were blessed?
Hi, my name is Lizzie Maxwell, and throughout the whole process, we've met so many people, and not just that, we got to experience each other and get to know each other more, and having all of that and that opportunity to hear those stories that they so generously shared with us, and to really just feel the love that they give, even though they don't have to, is amazing, because they've been through so much and they still give so much love. And I think having that experience and being with all these people has been such a blessing, and it's an amazing opportunity to have.
I'm Cassidy, and adding on to that of being in certain places and seeing these people go through so much and so have it be so impactful in their life, and they're still willing to accept God and know that they are loved and love almost everyone that they meet, and being able to share those small little 10-minute conversations was such a blessing. And also just processing it was not what I thought it would be. It's been a month now, and it's I still can't wrap my head around that we actually went out and did all this. But it was an amazing experience, and it was it was eye-opening to see and hear people's stories and meet kids who have been through so much and are just literally filled with joy and energy. Too much energy, a little bit, I will say. A little bit of too much energy. But it was great.
I will say there was one night in particular for me that it was Wednesday night. We were in Issaquah. We'd just gotten back from kind of doing youth group at the park, and then dinner with my church mom and his family, who hosted us there. And it was his church that we were staying as. We're back at the church, and there's just some things to process. We've got the women and children's shelter in the morning. And there were a couple of students who just needed to process some things. And so a little bit before, we had a normal nightly kind of get-together where we would talk about the day, where we would look over, and respond to the morning devotions that we had, give each other affirmations of what we saw, doing good. And then, be done by about, 10 o'clock or so that we could begin the process for going to bed. And so I'd had some processing before that, and then some processing after that with a couple students who just needed to kind of share. And, it's, after midnight now that I'm finally getting to bed with an early morning. And I texted Mandy. She saw it in the morning, but I texted her and said, I'm tired. It's been a long day. We've got a long morning, but right now I feel so alive. These kids feel like I'm blessing them, but what they don't realize is how much this actually blesses me. So just thank you for being a blessing to me. It's a blessing to be able to bless. Yeah. one of the things that we named, my friend Devin, who is the pastor at Engage Church that hosted us in Spokane, he shared with us on Sunday night 2 questions. We kind of ran with those questions all throughout the trip, and that was, how are you going to be used by God? And then, how is God going to grow you? God grows us. We're blessed. We're used by God to be a blessing. So my next question is, how do you feel like God got to use you? How do you feel like others got to be blessed because of you, because of this group and what we did?
So I'm Mackenzie, and so on Tuesday when we were at City Gate, my group, I was upstairs the entire time, and all we did was we cleaned. And these are apartments that are given to people who had been living on the streets. These are adults. Most of them had been on the streets before being adults too. And even some of them it was a new thing for them, and this was giving them an opportunity to have a roof over their head and somewhere stable so they can figure out the rest of their chaos, because life is chaos. And so being able to go through and clean all that for them, we shampooed the carpets, we bleached the walls, we cleaned all the bathrooms, the showers, we got to talk to people too some, and just being able to bless them in that way of just keeping their space clean, keeping that a nice place for them to use, was us being a blessing for them.
Hi, I'm Ellie, and on Friday, half of us that were under 16 were cleaning out the ditch. We took out several bushes and a small tree because the ditch was needed for the city for the drain, and the church would have been fined $3,000 if we hadn't cleared it out. So, and the other half of us who are over 16 were at Citygate Alliance, Medical Alliance.
Yeah, and at Medical Alliance, what we did, so they take in extra medical supplies, whether that be like medicines or cleaning things and stuff like that. And so we went there and we repackaged hand sanitizer and baby wipes so they could be sent out throughout the country and other countries for people and locations who just don't really have access to this.
Yeah, and the splitting up was because working in a warehouse, and you'll see some pictures in a minute, they had a 16 and older requirement, and so only some of our kids were able to go do that, and the others stayed in the sun and dealt with blackberry bushes and a small tree. Yeah, so good job. Anything else?
At the beginning of the week, we got these pamphlets, right? And I've had these pamphlets before, and they've just, from camps and other trips and things like that, and in the past they've seemed kind of shallow and stuff like that. But it was, there's a Bible passage. We wrote down our reflection and thoughts, and it was really good, like, strengthening at the beginning of the day to be contemplating that and remembering that, so you could go out and be stronger and more faithful.
Yeah, what Nate is referring to was our group chose a key verse. You'll see it on the back of our shirts that kind of served as the foundation for the morning devotions, as a launching pad for it. But the verse is 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 8 through 11. I'm going to read that, and then I'm going to ask you guys one more question, okay? It says this: above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. If anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God. If anyone serves, they should do so with the strength God provides, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. To him be the glory and the power forever and ever. Amen. So, we went on this trip, blessed, being a blessing, but we're off the trip. It's been over a month now, And some of the goal of a trip like this isn't just to have once, in a year, in a summer, where we go do good things, but rather that it serves as a catalyst for what life is supposed to continue to be, how we're going to continue to grow. So my last question for you guys is, with everything that you've experienced, how do you see this moving you or even us forward as we continue to grow in the way that we are blessed and the way that we are a blessing to others? Where do we go from here?
I think, like, moving from and, like, being back from the trip, it's a lot harder to, like, not do your devotions every day or to just, like, I don't know, pray, I guess. Like, when you're on a trip that's dedicated to helping out people and, like, just praising God and spreading his word, it's pretty easy to just be like, oh, hey, let's go pray together, or let me take 30 minutes to go do this devotion. But coming back, you got life. Like, you got school, you have so many things that could happen, like with friends or just family. There's so many things that can get in the way of doing devotions or praying or just anything really in general with that. And I think that it might be a little bit easier now for me personally, that I have spent almost an entire week doing that and then getting in that habit of doing it. But it still is, like, it's too early, or, it's like, there's these things that get in the way, and it's pretty much easy to just ignore it. It's easy to be like, I'll do it later. But in general, if you want to spread the word of God, it should come naturally. But I also think that you should try to do those devotions or try to pray, or however you talk to God. It doesn't necessarily have to be praying, but it's important to do it so you still feel connected. But I mean, I don't do it every day, so it's not like the end of the world, But it's something that can help, definitely. And coming back in a month, it's been hard to continue to do it every day. I still don't do it every day, but I try to at least once a week. Because, I had summer school, and I had, like, stuff happen with family and friends and just in general life, I guess. And it's not the end of the world to not do a devotion, but it's important to do them, I think.
Yeah, even if you're doing it just once like that, I've often told kids, don't try to tackle, like, I'm going to read the Bible in a month. I'm going to have 30 minutes of devotion time every single day. Like, no, just, like, don't set yourself up for failure. Plan to just get it done once, succeed, and then you can build off of that. So that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing, Cassidy. Anybody else?
So while we were staying at Engage, like, every single time we went out the door, I noticed the sign that they had hanging above it. And it was just this big wooden sign with big letters that said, "This is your mission field." And that has really stuck with me because, yes, we went on Deputation, we went on this trip, and we served people. But it's not just we have to go somewhere to do that. I can go down the street, I can go to CBC where I'm doing school, and I can just help in the food pantry. I can help people here. It's not you have to go somewhere specific to serve. You can help everywhere. Everywhere is your mission field to help people.
Amen to that. Hopefully we come here to be blessed together so that we can head out into a mission field, right? Everywhere, what you said, everywhere out there is the mission field. And these kids, through all the partnerships that we did, one specifically really surfaced and connected with us. And we have said that going forward, we don't want to just have helped them once. We want to continue to help. And so we talked, and this group is deciding to kind of adopt the Kent Hope Women and Children's Shelter as a organization that we as a youth group can continue to partner with, do fundraisers for, and serve, because we don't want to just leave it as once in the past, but to continue to do it. And then they said, but we also want to do something local in our own community. And so we have identified U Medical as something that we want to continue to partner with the church to say, let's get behind and let's make a difference. So thank you guys for sharing, for what you did, and for what God is going to continue to do in and through us.